We've all had an experience in school, maybe it was like science class, where we'd be given extra time to review notes before the test. And sometimes it would work, right? Work pretty well. Like if you can just cram everything into like 10 minutes of just the most key points, you might get a good grade on that test. But that's not how you should learn. That's not the correct way to learn. That's just how you pass the test. And that's the goal. Most teachers, unless they're like a superhero or something, they don't really care if you remember what they're teaching you in a couple years. But because we keep using this method of like memorizing notes or like reviewing right before a test, that like reinforces the idea that that's a proper way to learn. And sure, you can pass a test that way if you just memorize the notes or if you just study right before the test. But let's say you need to know that stuff later in the future. Like if you're a doctor and you need to know how to do surgery, right? Cramming isn't going to help. It's not going to make you remember. And that test is actually important, the test of like somebody's life, if you can save them or not. I have a specific example of this. So I'm a sophomore, I'm about to be a junior, and this happened to me in biology class. And freshman year, I scored 98% for the EOC. That's like the end of course test, right? I got 99 or 98 percentile out of all people. But after the class, I remember almost nothing in that class. Like I don't remember almost anything. If they tested me right now, I'd get like a 20, right? Maybe not a 20, but like a 40 or something like that. I'd get a really bad grade because the way I passed that class is not by learning the material, but by memorizing it. So if it's not by studying notes, if it's not by memorizing things, how do we learn properly? How do we retain information? Hey, this is me editing this video. I forgot to mention that this book that I learned everything from is called Make It Stick. I'm going to mention it later in the video, but it just kind of seems out of context. So Make It Stick is written by a couple very smart individuals. I don't know their names, but they're all like science people, right? So this is just empirical evidence shown to like the best reasons or the best ways to learn. So yeah, it's in the link in the description. I'll mention it later, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that this was from a book called Make It Stick. It's pretty simple, right? Some of you may already be doing it like on accident, but it's by testing yourself. I had a teacher use the exact method I'm going to be talking about, so I'm just going to use that story as an example to like teach the method. Freshman year, I had a class called civics. It's just like literacy of your rights as a citizen, right? It's like something that's like that definition. It's around there, right? And our teacher, like I said, he used this method where every week we'd have a look back quiz, is what he called it. And what that quiz would be is a review of every key point in that class, right? Either of that week. There'd be like some where it's like the whole year is the exact same question, and then some would be like of that week, there'd be like a specific thing that you learned. So let's say that the first thing we learned in class was the events that led to our separation from Britain. So that'd be a question up there, like, okay, name all the events. And that'd be like the Stamp Act, the Tea Act, all that stuff, right? Those events. That'd be like one question. And then there'd be something that we learned from like that week where it'd be like what was Roe v. Wade or something like that. That'd be an example. So there'd be a thing that we've learned all year, and then there'd be a thing that we learned that week. And there'd be multiple questions, and they'd be spaced out, right? Random order. And what that would do for us, it'd remind us of the things that we learned previously, right? If we got that question wrong before, we'd learn it, and then we'd come back to it and be like, oh yeah, I remember because I got this wrong. I'd say all in all, my civics teacher was a very good teacher, and that's because he knew how to learn. He knew how to teach us. So to just say it plainly, to learn, this is how you do it. This is how you retain information for a long period of time, right? Cramming, you'll remember that stuff for a little bit, but this is how you remember things for a long period of time. It's by learning something, right? Like 2 plus 2, that is 4. You have a teacher say that to you. Okay, 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, you learn, and then you test yourself on it. Then you see the results, right? Okay, I need to review what 3 times 3 is. Okay, that's 9. Then you test yourself again. And it's that continuous loop, right? You learn the answer, you take the test, you review those answers. What you get wrong, you review, and then you take another test. I'm kind of jambling my words. It's a lot of test, right? And that's the key point. Test yourself a lot. You test, forget, and then test yourself again. So you ask yourself, when you're reading a book, for example, when I'm reading this book, this is what I do, right? I read the stuff, okay? I must test. Okay, cool. Then at the end of the chapter, I'll ask myself, okay, what was this chapter about? I'll have to retrieve that information from my head. That's a test, right? I'll ask myself, okay, what was this chapter about? It was about testing. Okay. And that reinforces my knowledge by testing myself and asking myself, okay, what did I learn? That makes it so I learn better, so I remember. Because like now I never forget what's in this book because I always ask myself, what did I learn? And it's pretty easy to learn that way. So this continuous loop of learning, testing, reviewing, and then testing again, that loop, that's how you learn. And I want to say this just in case I missed it. When you're testing yourself, right, you test and then you learn and then you test again. Those tests should be spaced out because the way to learn, or more like the way to reinforce knowledge in your head, is by giving yourself time to forget about it, right? Because if you're constantly thinking 3 times 3 is 3, 3 times 3 is 3, 3 times 3 is 3, then of course you're going to be able to answer that question. But if you forget about it, and then you're like, okay, what is 3 times 3? And you're like, oh, it's 9, right? Oh, it's 9, that strengthens the knowledge that you have inside you. So when you're testing, like what my teacher did, right? He waited a week in between each test. It'd be Friday, and then we'd learn, and then Friday, and then we'd learn, and then Friday. It's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's not like that. You give yourself time to forget stuff. But that's all I got. There's a link to buy the book in the description if you do want it, because I'm sure I missed something. But yeah, if you'd like to learn how to be saved, I have a video over here. And if you'd like to learn how to start self-improvement, I have a video over here. Thank you for watching. Praise God.